Hello. Welcome to TOPHER'S Stories, where stories comes alive. Please subscribe and share with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. The sky was dark that night, not because of clouds or rain, but because of smoke. Thick, black smoke rising into the heavens, blocking out the moonlight. Screams filled the air. People were running from every corner of the village. Children cried. Mothers wailed. But in the middle of it all, Samantha Cole stood still, barefoot, confused, and covered in blood. Her eyes were wide with shock. Her lips trembled. The flames danced in the night like devils, swallowing the small family house she grew up in. My brother's inside, she screamed, trying to run toward the fire, but two strong men held her back. Leave me. Let me go. Please. Caleb is inside. My brother, he's inside. Samantha, it's too late, shouted Mr. Gregg, a neighbor. There's nothing left. But she kept struggling. Her arms were shaking, her dress torn, her feet bleeding from broken glass. Her face was smeared with blood, not hers, and her hands dripped red. Then the sirens came. Police, ambulance, firefighters. Within minutes, Samantha's entire world changed. As the firefighters sprayed water on the burning house, two police officers approached her. One of them, Officer Jason Quinn, looked at her with cold, suspicious eyes. "Are you Samantha Cole?" he asked. She nodded slowly, her breath shallow. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for arson and murder." The words hit her like a slap. "What? No. I didn't do anything." He grabbed her wrist and handcuffed her without even giving her a chance to explain. "You were found at the scene with blood on your hands. You have the right to remain silent." "I didn't kill my brother," she shouted, tears pouring down her face. "Why would I burn down my own house? Why would I hurt Caleb?" But nobody listened. Neighbors whispered. Phones recorded. Her photo was taken. Her face was all over the news by morning. A beautiful 22-year-old girl arrested for killing her younger brother. What they didn't know, what Samantha tried to say again and again, was that she wasn't even home when the fire started. She had rushed back after receiving a strange phone call. When she got there, the door was open, and she found Caleb bleeding on the floor, coughing, trying to speak. Run. Sam, it was an accident." Then the fire exploded. That was the last time she saw him. And now, they were calling her a murderer. 3 months later, Samantha sat on the cold metal bench in the prison visiting room. Her hair was messy, her eyes tired. The orange jumpsuit she wore made her feel like a criminal, even though her heart was clean. Her spirit, however, was broken. She had cried every night, screamed into her pillow, prayed to God to bring justice. But no help came. The guards called her the pretty killer. Inmates whispered behind her back. Some pitied her. Most didn't believe her story. Then one afternoon, the prison warden walked into her cell. "You have a visitor," he said. Her heart skipped. "Who is it?" The man shrugged. "Says his name is Brian." Brian. Her breath caught in her throat. The man she loved. The man who used to hold her when the world got too loud. The man who promised her forever. She walked into the visiting room like a ghost. Slowly, each step heavy. And there he was, Brian Miles, dressed in a sleek black suit, gold wristwatch, and polished shoes. Not a single wrinkle on his shirt. Not a single trace of guilt on his face. She sat down in front of him. Their eyes met. For a second, there was silence. Then she broke. "Why didn't you come to see me all this time?" Her voice cracked. Brian smiled gently, folding his hands on the table. "I was busy." "Busy? I've been rotting in here. They're charging me with murder. Brian, you said you would fight for me. You said you loved me." "I did," he said calmly. "I loved you, Samantha." She stared at him, confused. "What do you mean, did?" Brian leaned back and sighed. "I came here today to thank you." "To thank me?" she whispered, eyes widening. "For what?" "For taking the fall." Samantha blinked. "W, what are you talking about?" "I started the fire," he said, with the same ease as someone ordering lunch. "I set your house on fire. Your brother walked in on me. Things got messy. Samantha's entire body froze. You're lying? I'm not. Brian chuckled. I had to do it. He had proof. He found out I was using your family land documents to secure illegal deals. He said he would report me. She stood up slowly, trembling. You killed him. It was an accident, Brian said coldly. But I couldn't risk losing everything. So I made sure the blame fell on you. It was easy. You were emotional. You had no alibi. And best of all, people already saw you as poor and desperate. Samantha sank back into the chair, holding her chest like she couldn't breathe. I loved you, Brian. I trusted you. He smiled again. And that was your mistake. Love is expensive, Samantha. And in this world, it's always the innocent who pays the last price. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Why are you telling me this now? He leaned closer. Because it's over. I've moved on. I'm engaged now. Naomi. Samantha's jaw dropped. Naomi? My best friend. She knew everything from the beginning. We planned it together. She shook her head in disbelief. Why are you so heartless? Brian stood up, adjusting his jacket. I'm not heartless. I'm just realistic. And now that you've served your purpose, I thought you deserved the truth. He walked to the door, then paused. Without looking back, he said, Don't worry. Nobody will believe you. And even if they did, you'll rot here before you can prove anything. Goodbye, Samantha. The door closed behind him with a heavy click. And for the first time since her arrest, Samantha screamed, not just from pain, but from rage. She sat at the edge of her bed in the small, dimly lit hospital waiting room. Her hands were clenched together, knuckles white. The doctor's words replayed in her mind like a broken record. Your son has a rare heart condition. Without surgery, he won't survive past the next 3 months. The cost is $80,000. $80,000. Where would she find that kind of money? She worked as a hotel cleaner, earning just enough to pay rent and feed Caleb. The little savings she had was already gone after his first treatments. She tried begging. She tried online fundraising. She even went to church, crying in front of the altar. But no help came. The world moved on. Her son was dying and nobody cared. Then Derek Ford came into the picture. Tall, powerful, cold eyes. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country. Everyone knew his name. But nobody truly knew who he was behind closed doors. He had called her into his office one evening. The room was quiet, modern, air-conditioned. But Vivian felt like she was choking. Derek sat across the table, legs crossed, a calm smile on his lips. Miss Scott, he said softly, I can pay for your son's surgery. I'll handle the hospital bills, the flight, the recovery, everything. Vivian stared at him, lips trembling. Why would you do that for me? He leaned forward, his voice dropping. I don't do favors. I make deals. Her heart skipped. What kind of deal? She asked slowly. You disappear from his life, he replied. No calls, no visits, no messages. You vanish completely for 7 years. Vivian gasped. 7 years? You want me to abandon my son? Derek didn't blink. He will be taken care of. He'll never lack anything. I'll adopt him legally as a sponsor. He will go to the best schools, live in comfort, and grow up strong. But he can never know you were forced to leave. To him, you chose to go. Vivian stood up. That's evil. It's survival, he said coldly. You want him to live, don't you? Tears filled her eyes. Why are you doing this? He looked her straight in the eyes. Because I want to own something priceless. And right now, your silence is the most valuable thing in the world. She turned away, shaking. He added quietly, Think carefully, Miss Scott. You can be a present mother to a dying child or a missing mother to a healthy one. Either way, you're going to lose something. That night, Vivian sat beside Caleb's hospital bed, watching his tiny chest rise and fall. He looked so peaceful. His hand was wrapped around his favorite stuffed lion. His lips moved slightly in his sleep. Mommy, don't cry. She covered her mouth to stop herself from sobbing. She kissed his forehead, brushing the curls from his face. Then she whispered, "Forgive me, baby. I'm going to save your life, even if it costs me mine." She looked around the room, memorizing every corner, every shadow, every smell. She bent down and kissed his cheeks one last time. "Mommy loves you more than anything. Please don't forget that." And then she left. By the next morning, Caleb was flown to South Africa for his surgery, fully funded by Derek Ford. News spread that a generous billionaire had rescued a poor boy in need, but no one mentioned the mother because she had disappeared. Vivian woke up to the sound of ocean waves. She sat up slowly, blinking at the golden sunlight that poured into the large bedroom. The sheets were soft. The pillows were expensive. She was wearing silk pajamas. She stood and walked to the glass doors. Outside was a private beach. Palm trees. Crystal clear water. It looked like paradise. But to Vivian, it felt like prison. There were no neighbors. No phones. No internet. No newspapers. Just her, a maid who barely spoke, and two bodyguards who never smiled. She hadn't spoken to Caleb in weeks. Every time she asked about him, the answer was the same. "He's fine. You're not allowed to contact him." The first month, she cried every day. The second month, she stopped eating. The third month, she stopped talking altogether. At night, she would sit by the window and whisper his name. "Caleb, I'm sorry." She saw him in her dreams, heard his laughter, felt his tiny hands in hers. But when she woke up, there was only silence. Then came the nightmares. She dreamt of Caleb calling her from across a dark street. "Mommy, Mommy, where are you?" She would run toward him, screaming, "I'm here, baby. I'm here." But just as she reached him, fire would rise from the ground and swallow him, and she would wake up screaming. The housemaid would rush in, frightened. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Vivian would shake her head. "No, I'm not okay. I'll never be okay." By the 6th month, she had started talking to herself. Sometimes she laughed at things that weren't funny. Sometimes she stood in front of the mirror for hours, just staring. The luxury became torture. She had everything. Expensive clothes, jewelry, endless food, but she had no soul left. One evening, she sat on the beach and screamed at the ocean. "Is this what you wanted, Derek? Is this my reward?" The guards watched her silently. She didn't care anymore. She took off her necklace and threw it into the sea. That night, Derek called. His face appeared on a large screen in the living room. He smiled like a king. "You're not looking well, Vivian." "I want to see my son," she said. Her voice was weak but firm. "That wasn't part of the deal," he replied smoothly. "You're alive. He's alive. That's what matters." "You've destroyed me." "No, Vivian. You sold yourself. I just paid the price." She glared at him. "Why me? Why not someone else?" "Because you had something worth taking, your silence." The screen went black. Vivian collapsed onto the floor, hugging her knees. She cried until her body shook. Then she whispered the same words over and over again. "One day, I'll get out of here and you'll pay." Naomi Williams was living the dream. Her face was on magazine covers. Her Instagram was filled with luxury vacations, designer clothes, and photos with celebrities. Every girl wanted to be her. Every man wanted to have her. She had married into money. Brian Miles, the young billionaire whose empire was admired across Africa. Naomi smiled for the cameras, toasted champagne at charity galas, and walked red carpets like a queen. But deep inside, her peace was cracking. It started with a letter. Plain white envelope. No name. No return address. Slid under her bedroom door. She opened it slowly, her hands slightly shaking. Inside was a single photo. Samantha, in prison uniform, staring into the camera with dead eyes. On the back, a note written in red ink. She paid the price. You smiled through her pain. Naomi dropped the photo, like it burned her fingers. Her heart pounded. She looked around the room, but she was alone. "Who sent this?" she whispered. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept checking the windows. She jumped at every sound. The next day, she tried to ignore it. She put on makeup, fixed her wig, and went to a fashion event. But when she opened her handbag later that night, another envelope. This time, it was a video file on a flash drive. She locked herself in the bathroom and played it. The screen flickered. Then came the audio recording. It was all Naomi's idea. Brian's voice said clearly. She told me to frame Samantha. Said the girl was weak. Easy to break. Naomi covered her mouth. Next came a short clip. Secret CCTV footage of Naomi and Brian whispering in a car years ago. Laughing. Let her rot. Naomi said in the video. That's what love gets you. Naomi screamed. She ran to the mirror, her eyes wild. Who is doing this to me? The next morning, her Instagram was flooded with hateful comments. You snake. You ruined her life. You should be in jail. She grabbed her phone and called Brian. Babe, someone is trying to destroy me. Calm down, Brian said, half asleep. What are you talking about? They know everything. About Samantha. About what we did. Brian sat up. That's impossible. No one knew. Well, someone does now, she shouted. And they're watching me. That night, she dreamt of Samantha. In the dream, Samantha was wearing a white dress, but her face was burned, scarred. She walked slowly toward Naomi, holding something in her hand. Naomi tried to run, but her heels were stuck in blood. Samantha leaned in and whispered, You slept on my tears. Now you'll wake up in fear. Naomi woke up screaming. The guards rushed in, guns drawn. She was shaking, drenched in sweat. Check the cameras. Check the whole house. Someone's in here. I'm not safe. But they found nothing. And yet, every few days, another envelope arrived. Anonymous. Terrifying. Personal. Naomi's nightmares had just begun. Brian Miles had never lost a deal. He was a lion of the boardroom. Sharp, fast-talking, and always 10 steps ahead. But all that changed the day Serena King walked into his life. She was stunning. Caramel skin. Bright eyes. A voice like honey. She said she was a corporate consultant from Dubai, with experience fixing broken companies. Brian met her at a yacht party. She wasn't like the others. She didn't fawn over him or try to impress him. In fact, she barely smiled. That intrigued him. He invited her for dinner. She wore a simple black dress. No jewelry, just confidence. They talked for hours about politics, power, secrets. I don't trust people easily, Brian admitted. Good, Serena said. That's how men like you survive. He laughed. You think you know men like me? I studied men like you. Something about her eyes made him pause. After that night, Serena became his right hand. She advised on business moves, helped with deals, and charmed investors. Within weeks, Brian trusted her with everything. But what he didn't know was, Serena was Samantha, not in body, but in mission. She wasn't just here to help. She was here to destroy. Every day, Serena smiled sweetly as she slowly rewired Brian's empire. She introduced him to new investors, actors she paid. She suggested risky deals, traps she created. She made small changes in his contracts, loopholes that gave his enemies power. Behind the scenes, she sent anonymous files to the press, hinting at fraud in Brian's company. Every night, she sat in her hotel room, removing her wig and watching him on surveillance. He doesn't remember the girl he broke, she whispered. But I'll make sure he remembers the woman who broke him. One afternoon, Brian called Serena into his office. You're amazing, he said. Since you came, I feel stronger. Serena smiled. I'm glad I could help. You've helped me more than Naomi ever did, he said, pouring her wine. She's your wife, Serena said softly. Don't speak badly of her. He raised an eyebrow. You're different. That's why I like you. Serena looked down. You don't even remember, do you? Remember what? Never mind, she said, sipping her wine. He reached for her hand. Serena, I trust you. That's rare for me. She looked into his eyes. You shouldn't, she said. But he didn't listen. The next week, one of Brian's top business partners, Mr. Collins, suddenly pulled out a multi-million-dollar deal. because of a video leak showing Brian mocking a disabled staff member. Brian panicked. "That video was from 5 years ago," he yelled. "Who released it?" "Someone wants to ruin you," Serena said calmly. "You think it's Naomi?" he asked. Serena tilted her head. "Maybe. Or maybe it's someone from your past." Brian's world began to shake. Investors started leaving. News stations began digging into his company history. Old enemies returned with lawsuits. Brian paced his office, sweating. "This can't be happening. I fixed everything. I buried every secret." Serena placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You buried the past, Brian, but you forgot something." He turned to her. "What?" She leaned close, whispered in his ear. "The past always digs itself out." Then she smiled and walked away. The rain fell heavily over the quiet cemetery. Samantha stood alone, her black coat soaked, her boots sinking slightly into the wet ground. She stared at the grave in front of her. David Scott, beloved son and brother. 1995 to 2020. Her brother, the one who died in the fire, the one whose death sent her to prison. She bent down and placed a single rose on the tombstone. Her fingers shook as she touched the cold stone. "I'm free now," she whispered, "but you're still gone." Just as she turned to leave, she noticed something strange. The grave looked freshly disturbed. She paused. Her instincts flared up. Something wasn't right. She stepped closer, then froze when she heard a soft voice behind her. "You're not supposed to be here." Samantha turned sharply. A man in a hood stood behind her. Tall, slim, a scar just below his right eye. She stepped back. "Who are you?" The man slowly removed his hood. Samantha gasped. "David." He didn't speak. He just looked at her, face full of guilt. "No, this can't be real," she whispered. "You died. I saw the house burn. I held your jacket with blood on it." David stepped forward. "I'm sorry, Sam." Samantha backed away, eyes wide. "You let me believe you were dead. You let me rot in prison for a crime I didn't commit." "I didn't have a choice," he said, his voice low. Samantha's hands curled into fists. "You had every choice. I cried for you every day. I blamed myself. I hated myself. I faked my death to survive," David said, tears in his eyes now. "Someone wanted me gone and I couldn't protect you." "Who?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Who made you do this?" David looked around, then whispered, "Come with me. I'll explain everything." They went to an old garage 2 streets away. It was dusty, filled with tools and old photos. David opened a metal box and pulled out a stack of papers. "These," he said, "are proof that Brian and Naomi weren't just trying to destroy you. They were after me too. I found something I wasn't supposed to see. Company papers, secret transactions linked to Dad's old business. Brian was laundering money through fake accounts under your name and mine." Samantha stared at him, stunned. "You knew this and didn't come forward?" "They threatened to kill you," he said. "They knew I found out. That's why I staged the fire. I thought I could hide, gather evidence, and come back for you. But I was too late. You got arrested. I watched from a distance. I broke. You let me suffer. I never stopped trying to make it right." Samantha shook her head, tears sliding down her face. "So you watched me break in prison? You watched them ruin my name, while you hid?" David dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry, Sam. Please believe me. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was doing the right thing." Samantha stood silent for a moment. Then quietly she said, "Someone else helped me escape prison." David looked up. "Who?" she whispered. "A man named Trevor Banks." David's eyes went wide. He stood up slowly. "You need to sit down. I know who Trevor really is." Samantha sat across from David, her mind racing. "You know Trevor?" she asked. David nodded. "He's not just some mysterious billionaire. He's blood." "What?" David walked to the wall and pulled out an old family photo. Samantha squinted at it. It was their father, Henry Scott, years younger. But standing beside him was a boy she didn't recognize. "That's Trevor," David said. "Our father's first son. From another woman." before he married Mom. Samantha stood up, but Dad never mentioned a first child. David sighed. He kept it secret. Trevor's mother was a poor housemaid. When Dad got rich, he abandoned her and Trevor grew up in the streets, watching from afar while we lived a perfect life. So he hated us? No, David said. He hated Brian. Brian tricked our dad into signing over company to him when Dad was sick. Trevor tried to stop it, but no one listened. After Dad died, Brian took everything. Trevor swore revenge. Samantha sat down again, her heart pounding. So he helped me because I was part of the family he lost? David nodded. He watched you for years. He saw how Brian and Naomi destroyed you. He was the one who gave me money to disappear. Samantha looked down. And now he wants revenge. Not just revenge, David said. He wants to finish what our father started. He wants to expose Brian, burn everything down. And he wants you beside him. Samantha stared out the window, her thoughts swirling like a storm. Then the door opened. Trevor Banks walked in, tall, clean-shaven, sharp suit. His eyes met Samantha's. They were calm, calculating. You found your brother, he said. You lied to me, Samantha replied. You said nothing about being my blood. Trevor stepped forward. Would you have trusted me if I told you I was Henry Scott's abandoned son? Samantha hesitated. Maybe not. Trevor placed a folder on the table. Everything you need to destroy Brian is in here. Every transaction, every blackmail, every fake deal. She opened the folder slowly. Names, numbers, videos, signatures, emails. Trevor continued. Brian didn't just take your freedom. He took our father's legacy. He built his empire on our family's graves. It's time we make him pay. Samantha clenched her jaw. Why now? Because you've seen pain. You've seen betrayal. That fire didn't just change you, it forged you. She looked at David, then at Trevor. A piece of her heart was still broken, but another part was burning. I want justice, she said quietly. Trevor nodded. Then welcome to the war. David placed a hand on her shoulder. We're with you. Samantha smiled faintly. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a victim. She felt like the storm they'd never see coming. The ballroom at the Sapphire Grand Hotel was glowing with lights. Cameras flashed. Celebrities, politicians, and billionaires filled the red carpet for the annual African Future Summit. Among them stood Derek Blake, the event sponsor, dressed in a sleek black suit. His smile was wide. His hands waved gracefully. To the world, he was a savior. The rich man who rescued abandoned children and funded orphanage programs across Africa. But behind that polished smile hid a monster. In a corner of the room, Vivian Cole stood in a red dress. Elegant, bold. But behind her eyes was a storm of truth. Her heart beat fast. She took a deep breath, holding her small silver purse tightly. Inside it was a USB drive that could change everything. Tonight was a night. No more secrets. No more fear. She walked up to the stage slowly as the host announced Derek for his Humanitarian of the Year award. The crowd applauded. Cameras turned. But before Derek could step up to the mic, Vivian did. The room went quiet. Derek's smile froze. Vivian, what are you doing? Vivian took the mic. She looked around. Her voice was calm, but sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, before we celebrate a man tonight, I think it's time the world hears the truth about who he really is. The crowd gasped. Derek's face darkened. Vivian, step down now. She ignored him. I was once one of Derek Blake's rescues, she said, voice shaking. He found me when I was poor, broken, and desperate to save my sick son. He paid for my son's surgery, but he didn't do it out of kindness. He did it because he wanted to own me. People whispered. The media turned their cameras to record every second. Vivian raised her USB stick. This drive held videos, messages, and audio recordings. Derek Blake has been running a dark business behind his charity work, using vulnerable women, locking them away, and manipulating their lives. A large screen behind her came on. Video clips started playing. Vivian crying in a locked bedroom. Derek's voice saying, "You owe me. I paid for your son. I own your choices." A document with other girls' names. The crowd gasped again. Reporters jumped to their feet. Derek's face turned red. This is a setup. Vivian turned to him. "You said I would never leave you, that I would always owe you. But today, I pay my final price with the truth." Suddenly, police officers walked through the crowd. They approached Derek. One of them read aloud, "Derek Blake, you are under arrest for coercion, illegal detainment, and financial manipulation. You have the right to remain silent." The crowd exploded with noise. Cameras flashed wildly. As they handcuffed him, Derek stopped and turned toward Vivian. His voice was cold and clear. "You really think you're clean? Should I tell them what you did before Caleb was born?" Vivian's eyes widened. Derek looked at the cameras. "This woman, this brave angel you're cheering for, she once tried to sell her unborn baby. She met a foreign couple in secret. She named a price. I stopped her." The room went silent. Vivian's heart dropped. People stared, judged. The cheers turned to murmurs. Derek smiled bitterly. Every angel has a past. The police pulled him away, but the damage was done. Vivian stood frozen, humiliated and exposed. 3 weeks passed. Vivian didn't leave her apartment. The media had a new headline every day. "Fallen Mother. The secret past of Vivian Cole." People who praised her now mocked her. "You want to sell your own child? Some hero you are." Vivian shut off her phone. She curled up in bed most days, eyes swollen from crying. She couldn't even face the mirror. Then one day, she heard a knock. She opened the door slowly, and there stood Caleb, her son, now 17, taller, wiser, and full of questions. She stepped back. "What are you doing here?" He didn't smile. He didn't shout. He just walked in and sat on the couch. "I came to ask you something." Vivian stood silently. Caleb looked at her, eyes calm but heavy. "Is it true?" he asked. "Did you try to sell me?" Vivian dropped her gaze. Tears fell. She nodded slowly. "I was young. I was scared. You were sick. The hospital bill was higher than anything I'd ever seen. I had no family. No one helped. And a couple offered money, a lot of money." Caleb blinked. "But why didn't you do it?" Vivian wiped her face. "Because the moment I felt you move in my stomach, I knew I could never give you away. I walked out of that meeting. I ran, and I swore I'd do anything to save you." He looked at her. His voice broke a little. "Even sell yourself to Derek?" She nodded. "Yes, I gave up my freedom for yours." Caleb was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled something from his backpack, a small folder. "What's that?" Vivian asked. "I started digging," Caleb said. "I looked into the couple who wanted to buy me. I found out Derek sent them." Vivian's eyes widened. "He set it all up? He knew you were desperate. He pushed you to that place so he could be your rescuer. He never saved you. He hunted you." Vivian collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Caleb gently placed his hand over hers. "I hated you for a while," he said, "but then I realized you were just trying to survive." She looked up at him. "Do you forgive me?" He nodded slowly. "I forgive you, Mum." Tears flowed freely now. They hugged, tight, warm, and full of years lost. That night, they cooked dinner together for the first time in years. No cameras, no news, just laughter. They started small, one day at a time. Vivian worked at a local shelter, helping women who were once like her. Caleb focused on school, determined to become a lawyer, to fight for justice, the way his mother never had. One morning, they stood on a rooftop watching sunrise. Vivian smiled at Caleb and whispered, "Love is never free, Caleb. It always costs something." Caleb turned to her. "And you paid it." Vivian nodded. "With pain, with shame, with blood." He held her hand. "But you didn't pay it alone. Not anymore." And just like that, their story began again. Quietly, honestly, and beautifully. The world had watched her fall. But now she would rise. Not as a perfect woman, but as one who had paid the last price